No, I did it one time.
Okay, we're streaming it.
No, I didn't mean that.
Oh, no.
And he goes, no, I know you didn't. He goes, I know, it's just a script.
Sometimes, I say this to the kids at school, sometimes language creeps into our everyday conversation that we're not aware
Right.
as people.
Yeah.
You know, the implications.
But he said, no, I didn't take it.
Oh, my gosh. So we're showing our work to them.
I did not get to check my email.
Well, this-
Schooling, but I did read this. This was,
Well,
Yes, I did
she
read
and Patrick
this.
came over last night, and I mean, because it's their department, and so we had a nice conversation about it, and
It is.
we're up,
Pollinated
Beth?
this.
We're
We
on?
are.
okay.
Oh, there? Yes. She's acceptable.
Okay.
And McFarland, no, it's not. Then McFarland knows something. I said, the lawyers are waiting. So she's gonna use this, and then change them for that. And I send it all to you guys in an email.
Oh, wow. Wow. That was more brutal, I think.
So Colin, how did you get those out of the Bella Napoli?
The
That's
Blue
fine.
Shield people came up for their annual review yesterday, and they
Ah.
brought them up.
That's a great bakery.
That's what they said. They said it's famous down
Yeah,
there.
it is. The original one's in Troy, but their big one is in Latham, right on the corner of Route 9 and Route 155.
Good so far, yeah.
It's 4:32.
I think it'll be a good group after everybody gets settled in.
After some parameters are defined.
You guys were doing a picture.
What about the farmer's market?
Oh, okay.
Hey, Mike, you want a cookie?
If you could transport one via Skype, I'll take a cookie.
You mean you're not on Smell-O-Vision?
Okay, I'm gonna call to order our public safety meeting for tonight. Roll call?
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ansel?
Here.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Counselor Moore?
Here,
Okay, item 1 on the agenda, reports from department representatives and discussion with counselors. Well, number 1, report from,
Oh, Counselor Kelly, sorry.
sorry.
Year.
Report from the Parking Violations Bureau for March 2019. We all got that report. Does anybody have any questions? I think so. It's all pretty straightforward, thank you. Okay, so number 2, agenda items brought forward from departments to be approved by committee and recommended to council. Do you want to read through these, or do you want to just wait until the meeting to discuss?
Why don't we read through them now, and then when we get to the meeting, we don't have to reread them. We can just move them forward
Okay.
while we have time.
Okay, number 1, request from Police Chief Ritter for an agreement with Ron Santo for 2019 Police Academy Director Training, Director Services. The total cost is $20,000, no increase in cost from 2018. So we talked about that in our meeting. It was pretty clear to me.
It's one-time instructor fee, and that basically we receive revenue from other municipalities and agencies that will be sending their recruits to the academy for training.
Okay, number 2, request for approval of the proposed settlement of the tax assessment cases filed by Plattsburgh Plaza LLC and HMC Nominee LLC for 2017 and 2018. Number 3, request from Police Chief Ritter for 1 police department employee to attend trauma management training from May 7 through 9, 2019 in Waterfleet, New York. The total cost will not exceed $433.75 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund. I did have a question about this. Could you elaborate a little more? Because I saw the document that you sent and the information. Is it is it a police officer that's going to, I guess I wasn't really clear on that, if it was an officer or who this was that wanted to go to this.
I believe it is one of our officers that has an EMT background.
That's what it was, okay.
That's at the Arsenal? I think so. I think that's right, because they also, the Arsenal actually has their own fire department. that they- So I
Okay.
imagine it might be the EMT aspect of it. I don't think they have a police force, but they do have a fire department.
So what will that training, trauma management, if I remember the document said it would be on how to manage others in trauma because he's got an EMT background? Or,
I believe it has to do with the police role in a mass casualty, like an active shooter type of violence.
okay,
I mean, that is the incentive behind this type of training for our roles. It doesn't take over true EMS roles, but
mm-hmm,
if there can be some crossover in a crisis, and we want as many people that have that kind of training.
okay. Number 4, request from Police Chief Ritter for 2 Police Department employees to attend Glock Armorers course training on June 25th through 6th, 2019 in Herkimer, New York. The total cost will not exceed $846 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund. I wouldn't mind a little more explanation on that one.
Sure. So Glocks are handguns
Mhm.
or service weapons. To be able to fix them, you have to have a specific certification from the manufacturer.
Oh,
So this is not an annual certification, but we do need officers that are certified just with, it's a recurring certification. I believe it's every 3 years.
okay. Okay. That was a quick agenda.
I'll make a motion to move items 2, 1 through 4 to the main agenda.
And I second that.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
Okay, do we have any old business? Do we want to talk about the animal control contract anymore, or do you want to do that? between us,
I'm
or-
satisfied with the previous conversation. I think that we need to get
Okay.
together.
And iron
with-
it out.
And iron it out with Dean and maybe actually with the chief too, just to kind of get
I
some
think that would be,
feedback.
if that's okay with.
If that's okay with you, Mayor, to get some feedback on exactly what some of the issues and specifics.
Please, yeah.
Okay, so let's,
We'll maybe have Beth schedule something. for
yeah,
us.
Trying to think
It's
when,
mostly Dean's schedule, but
mostly Dean's schedule.
But I think we also realize that we have to have something potentially by the end of the month,
Which is next week.
right?
So by next Thursday, maybe.
Right.
Could
We do Monday after noon?
I
After, when,
can't.
after you get out of work, I mean, like
I can't.
3:30, 4
No,
o'clock,
I have an appointment directly after school.
or Tuesday.
I can't Tuesday. I could do Wednesday after 4, but I don't know if that works for you. Or Dean, or Beth,
That's the first.
or
of
the whole crew. Oh, yeah, you wouldn't be here. What am I even
That's the
saying?
first of the month.
Well, we're not gonna get it done between now and then, right?
We need it before.
But maybe before the council
We
meeting
need it on
Thursday.
Thursday, right?
Or if we wanted to meet Thursday before the council meeting.
it's not going on next week's agenda, is it?
I mean, Wednesday the 1st is fine with me. I don't know if that fits Dean or.
Or is it going to wait till the next public safety committee?
Probably, because it would have to be, drop a document.
If it's
and-
Wednesday, would you be able to make it Thursday instead? Because Dean will be up here already for his regular
Yeah, we
council
can make it
meeting
Thursday.
with me at
Okay, let me
3:30.
check my-
3:30, I couldn't make it before 3:30 on Thursday.
I can't either, I work.
That's why I can't make it.
My other job, I could do Thursday at 3:30.
I can too.
How about 3:45, so that he and I can do the stuff we need to do, and then you can
Can
have
do
the
that?
latter half
That's
of
fine.
that meeting?
Yep. So Thursday, 3:45, so May 2nd.
And that work for you, chief?
I believe it will.
Okay. Okay. we'll meet in your office, Mary?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Okay, any other old business? Any new business we want to discuss? Anybody?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Or recess till 5 o'clock then for a work group?
Second on that was
But that was me?
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Ensel,
Yes.
Mayor Reed.
Yep.
Today's meeting is adjourned. Time is it? 4:40? That's gotta be the fastest meeting. Oh, do we want to sign some bills? Since Mike's not here? Sit him down here?
Hopefully, if they have more questions, hopefully they'll ask.
I think you gave us so much information.
Yeah, well, I know that some of my friends, they're in a couple of yeah.
Chiefs, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the 2004 Ford Super Duty F-350. That was repaired
Same energy.
at the 2004. That's what it says on here. What, the one that was done at the lacquer shop? Was it, I was just wondering if it was police, fire, or DPW.
Ours is an F2.
Repair to a 2004 Ford Super Duty F-350 damaged in accident.
They want a legal absence from the council, and they also want the bumping rights.
Yeah.
To retreat rights from civil
Okay.
service.
We'll see what it's
But this is only for provision.
No, I'm wondering if it's DPW. then.
Behind you hasn't
Right.
been permanently built. So in
Yeah.
this case,
I'm pretty sure ours is F2.
Okay.
I guess, I mean, I understand that now.
yeah.
Jim, he got, one year leave of absence to take, he had to take the test, and then they didn't actually offer the test within that first year, so he had to get an extension.
Yep. Yeah. And that's perfectly legal. Well, under the union contract, that's legit, and civil service can't complain about it because they have to give him retreat rights.
Yeah.
As long as he's provisionally considered, so, and nobody can feel that job behind him pick up until he's permanent. It gets really crazy.
I know, that's why it's good to hire people off the list.
Yeah, because it's a one and done.
Yeah.
Now, I know what the union guys are saying, well, if I don't like the job, then I want to go back. That's Brenda told us.
Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering. That's what it sounds like.
Brenda was not.
I'm like, wait, this is happening
Go back.
before.
I know.
Because Brenda came to our office.
I know.
And she was there for 2 months and said, whoa, no. I don't even know if it was 2 months.
She complained to me for 3 years that she was passed over. Had been treated by the city. Was due to be able to take on another step up. So she probably
Well, that's one of the things. This is what I noticed. Actually, I'll pick up Bill's back, so this is what I noticed.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because it's your department.
Yeah.
They,
I know.
this frequency.
Strange.
Well, I thought I remembered
And
about
there's
that she'd
oh,
done that a bunch
every,
of
and I don't understand why.
And
it's
she
so
was-
many times.
And she was already permanent too. She was on the list.
Anyway, but,
I guess they're thinking since
so
probationary, she's
I went backwards. And this is, every 2 weeks, this
Well,
is how much
I
it's.
talked to him about it, and he's not
Increase.
concerned about it, so.
This, that, see?
Counselors, may I ask a question?
And I might
Yes.
talk to Mike about
Where is Counselor Armstrong?
She is working on
She's
something.
working on something.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
She'll
She's
be
here. She's in the building.
Oh, okay. I was worried about her. The email threads today said that she's not sleeping well and she's drinking a lot of coffee, so I was concerned about it.
It's a teacher's diet.
These jobs are.
She will be here though?
Yeah, she's here. She's in the building.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
All right, I'm
Good.
gonna.
Anyway, I wanted.
Nothing on the word.
Go balance some more numbers here.
Oh, and that reminds me. Mhm. I was hoping we could get an update on this.
Back in 5?
I guess, yeah.
We would have to do that.
Bring it up.
We'd have to do it.
Because it's been heard. Right.
So we'd have to do it in executive session.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to bring it up, but I was hoping at some point we would. Yeah, you gotta go check it out, let me know. People go right to their homes. Be expected.
It's all good.
Oh, she's saying, where'd Mike go? He's still there. He's just not there. Weird to have this much time.
I know, that was a very quick agenda.
Yeah.
Today was riveting.
No.
Comprehensive emergency management plan for.
How are you?
I went to the very first one. And I haven't been able
Someone you know?
Yes.
She's tagging.
Just, yeah, different.
He has to do a project for Clinton.
Oh, okay.
Well, not professor. Oh, I'm so used to saying professor now.
Ryan is the.
No, I am not a professor.
offer to sit.
Say something.
I'm sorry.
Sarah.
Just put it on. I did. It's only the work session. The meeting's not till 5:30. Sarah? No, bored. It's ADD. You're the one with ADHD. No, yours has hyper.
No, she's not diagnosed with anything, so.
Ah, well, pretty sure.
How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Excuse me, you?
Well, you? Busy all the time.
Getting the community and community coordinator starting on Wednesday next week.
Oh, yeah?
It's pretty exciting.
Who is it? Who is it?
My name is Scott Matthews. Jeff has his business in a couple weeks. Come share bus school.
I guess he did know.
Graduated from Plattsburgh State and then went on to graduate school and have some campaigns. We worked in Boston for the last couple of years. And I asked some people who worked with people like him if we could recommend anybody who might be willing to come back. So we all know what he's here. His name came up, so I pursued it and said, yeah.
Straight. That same stuff as before. It is.
That's stuff we really part of.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work.
Press releases, this kind of stuff all the time. Salt testing before we start. I'm Kelly, we're on the budget and just came by and continue. Sure, I guess around 28 to 30, something like that.
That's where my father's from, George.
Yeah, so you know, probably the Nazis down, but
My father probably wouldn't remember now. His memory's not very good, but yeah, I'm sure he would recognize the last name.
Scott would probably know your dad. And
Maybe.
I'm sure that's.
His, or his father or
Might be
grandfather.
easier to take a picture of the desk now, all the nameplates.
Which feel probably near us to check on this and thousands.
Well, that'd be easier.
It's pretty small.
To write down their names, or roll call, yeah, circle.
There's a lot to see when you look at kids.
Elizabeth, did you go anywhere for your vacation at all?
No.
Did stuff around?
I don't leave town during February and April vacations. I use that time to just be home and get things done. And, so I do all my traveling fun in the summertime
Yeah.
when the weather's good
And
and
you have time.
I have time.
Yeah.
They don't have to feel like I got to rush somewhere to be back, you know. So yeah, we always do a family vacation in the summertime in Maine. We go to Ogunquit for a few days, me and the boys, and it's kind of our family thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then we do other stuff all
Right.
summer, you know. But yeah.
Sure, I'm not missing anything.
I'm really great. How are you doing? So Rochelle worked with Dean, and this is the final iteration of her work. So, well, you've got a copy of it, so.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
How are you doing today? Did we get down to one?
Nothing, I never heard anything.
It's actually pretty interesting. I mean, I didn't know about it, but I think the Sun community is doing that. Usual.
Are they gonna? Are they still in? Yeah.
He's interested in the cookies.
Curious as well as over there.
Mayor Reed, I didn't want to ask this out loud, but I was wondering, we could get an update on that.
You probably won't know anything at all for another couple of weeks.
Okay.
Should be pretty soon,
That's what I
any week now.
Okay.
Then we'll give you a complete update, because at that point, it'll probably be the final determinations.
Okay, thanks.
We just fast. I mean, fast.
It's been about a week. So my girl, it's looking a lot. Picked it up, but it's like everything's learning scenario, which is good for me. Educationally, but not good for me.
Yeah.
To do start to learn actually, it'll make money.
But then another person I know through Jamie's group said, we started getting tested, but they were talking over me. And the system.
Still waiting on one girl to get back to me. She came in a little while ago. We did a last minute thing, we did it together, she filmed it. That's all we're doing. She's going to do it today, just do tomorrow.
Residences that blocked.
She said she was gonna, it was on reality check or something, I don't know. Yeah, she said that she was giving her.
I mean, another cookie.
I can't remember her name right now, but it'll come to you.
Well, there's Mike Kelly.
Now, Mike, you're in Myrtle Beach. You're supposed to have a nice ocean beach background behind you.
Oh, reading.
You see these fancy curtains I've set up here, Peter?
Do you want to?
Just beyond them, the ocean waves are rolling in.
Trade off?
Yes. Paragraph by paragraph.
I'd like to show them to you.
But how about?
See if I can show them to you. Oh, you
I think
can't see them.
Back up to almost 900 words.
But they're out there.
And then Patrick wanted me to ask him.
Well,
If you don't mind.
I just wanted Patrick to know that I have been investigating the parking situation here, Patrick,
I
and
thought this was it.
I noticed that people are willing to pay lots of money to go to the beach.
Oh, you need for publication.
Let's get more beach
So
in
this is
Plattsburgh.
going to
I've
be
been
read,
on
but
for
it's
years.
going to be
And I-
pared down for publication.
And I'm one who has paid that.
Well, we're in work session. Because public safety's done.
One person that doesn't
and
actually
meeting's not
particularly
till
like
5:30,
watch
so-
myself.
You know, I'm not a big,
When does it-
I'm
when
not a
does
big
it-
beach
when
person,
do you want
but
this?
when
We don't
my,
have to
my
write it
son
out
was
till
working at
tomorrow.
Coastal, my son worked at
So,
Coastal
I'll
Carolina
work on it.
University for
You've got
4
work
years, so we would get
Yeah,
there and
I would.
visit.
Yeah.
But
So
what I'm
I-
saying is, do you want to do it now while we're in work session?
I don't have a brain to do it
Okay.
right now.
Reading it? One person.
Well, then you read it.
I can read it. When is that going to be done? At the
I
end
don't
of
know,
the.
ask the mayor.
Okay.
When should we read this?
These LED lights.
Council
Got a pretty
reports?
thin
like
agenda,
a month ago,
so.
or are these more?
Like committee reports?
Must be more.
Up front rather
Still the
than?
same one you signed for.
pass those down to Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
If you want
It's
to
your call.
read it, so the most people here, if that's the case, wait till after 5:30 at
Right,
committee reports perhaps.
right. Okay,
We don't have much to talk really about during working session, I think, either,
Michelle.
so.
okay.
Did you happen to make the library meeting on Tuesday? I can't.
It was canceled.
Was it canceled?
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't have a quorum.
It has the same,
I know.
they conflict with my Mountain Lake PBS
Yeah.
meetings.
Okay.
Let's begin the working session for tonight's council meeting. It's an opportunity for us to have extended conversation with any of the items. on the agenda. You just completed your public safety subcommittee meeting just earlier in that for some of the items on the agenda, but for those who weren't here, obviously we still have more conversations than those as well.
I just asked him about it, and he said there was no.
For those of you who weren't here earlier, the tax case for Plattsburgh Plaza versus the city was discussed briefly. We've shared materials with you and discussed this in the past. And legal counsel, tax counsel recommends the settlement that's in the packet.
I'm gonna need water. I didn't hear it, but so.
Could run through your committee reports and then defer to Rochelle and hear the mayor's comment together.
If you want to do your comment, I got one short little proclamation.
Yeah, but they're not gonna come until 5:30.
Hmm?
So if you want to forward it to the room,
I won't wait till 5:30.
Yeah, yeah. But, yeah, I'm not entirely composed right now.
I just wait for half an hour and figure out what they want to do. Doing up inside right now.
Okay, all right.
Can I ask a question about something else that's not on the agenda? It was a constituent email, a phone call, actually. It has nothing to do with the agenda, it's just something that happened before he came on the council. So I got a phone call from a woman in my ward who wanted to purchase some paving bricks when we used to do the Riverwalk paving bricks, and the program's discontinued. And she wanted to know what it would take to get that back up and running again. Because she was really adamant that we do that again, and I didn't know that I would ask tonight. I know the resolution was passed on December 2017 to discontinue, and sounds like it was done for financial reasons. We didn't have anybody to
And
maintain.
we weren't, I think Sylvia mentioned that we really weren't selling a great deal at that time, and that the cost of what we were charging compared to what the cost was actually a deficit.
Right, and I remember, I read the resolution, and it said that it was gonna have to be, if it was gonna continue, it would have to come out of a general fund, and that's not what we wanted, so she was very adamant she wanted me to look into it. What would it take to get it up and running? She thought there might be a group locally that would be willing to do the work that was done by the group that was done before, and
I think that'd be ideal if a group could step forward and.
she thought she could assemble a group
That'd be
of
great.
volunteers that would be willing to take it up. So if that's the case, how do they move forward with this?
I think another issue too, and if I remember correctly, was that there were some bricks that may have been damaged, and the people that sponsored the bricks wanted the city also to refurbish and fix the bricks at the city cost.
I can't remember that.
So if there is an interest, what is the procedure? Do they,
I guess I'm not understanding, you still want the city to reinvigorate the program, or you
Yes.
want another entity to kind of take the reins
Well,
and lead the program?
the woman that I spoke to said that she thought she could put together a group that could do the work that the other volunteer group was doing, according to the language I read on the resolution of 2017. But I think there's more than just that. There's more than
There is,
just
there's a-
volunteer going on. It's also the cost of.
Cost
Yeah.
through the city
So,
clerk's
I mean,
office.
I know it was a lack of kind of interest that killed the group, and it was a financial hit, and it was also this, I guess, quagmire where there was bricks that were needing repair, but the original individuals weren't willing to make those repairs. So it was a series of issues.
Mhm.
It would formally take a council resolution to reinvigorate the program. So I would think maybe if this group wants to make a proposal first, that would lead us to then act based on that proposal. And we can make comments on it, change it, but absent that groundswell, I don't think there's really much of a motivation. And Sylvia might have some more on the ground knowledge because she was dealing with the program. And
Okay.
it was not a great experience in her experience. I don't want to speak for her, but that's why we ended the program.
Okay.
So I kind of let them take the initiative, make a proposal, and then we'll react to it.
Okay. Okay. So that's what I'll tell her.
I just thought of something that came up through an email from a constituent as well. And she had attended the presentation on Monday night about the Climate Smart Communities program. And it got her to thinking about other kinds of green initiatives we could take as a city. And she had a question about all of the plastic bags in which people, put their lawn debris, and I guess are then picked up by the city. She wanted to know if she thought it was a requirement that the bags be stored in that fashion. But, considering the fact that we're looking at a plastic bag ban of single-use plastic next March, wondered if the city might investigate whether or not it could change its requirement, if it is that, to those tall paper bags, so that people can avoid having to use something that's basically indestructible. It's organic waste, It's kind of ironic.
Where do you purchase those?
I get mine at Obashan in the Skyway Plaza.
Sorry, what?
Will the governor's
paper
plastic
use bags?
bag ban won't apply to garbage bags, will it?
I
Lawn
don't
bags.
think so.
I remember, I spoke to Mike Brody about that shortly after I joined the council, because they
Right.
dump out by, off of Ruger Street. And
Right.
he was actually saying that the paper bags present more problems for them than the plastic
I
bags.
understand that if they get wet, they could, come loose. That's a problem.
I don't know, I don't remember
But
the
it might reduce
specific
the,
reasons.
I mean, if they're going to use whatever's stored in those bags in the compost that's out there, it would then eliminate the step of them having to open all those
Open the
bags and
bags
then throw the compost
Yeah.
around.
I don't remember the specifics of what
Yeah.
the problem was, but
Well, I
I
just
remember him
wanted-
saying that because I asked him about, because I have those, I have the bags too.
Right.
And I remember him telling me that they created more of a problem. or
Well,
issue
anyway,
than-
we'll look into it, and if you wouldn't mind passing that along.
What does the Department of Public Works do with those plastic bags?
If I recall, they empty the plastic bags in big piles of leaves up on Ruger Street.
Mhm.
I think I'd like to see us as part of the green initiatives, figure out how to do more organic waste recycling in the city of Plattsburgh. But I think there's have to be a lot of consultation with the DPW to see what the capacity for them would be on that.
Well, what do they do with the plastic bags themselves? I know the
That
process.
would then go to landfill, I presume.
Yeah.
I think that's probably
They
why they
actually-
like the
I
plastic
see them
bags.
dumping them. They rip the bags open and dump the refuse in the back of the truck, and then they hang the bags on the side.
Mhm.
I think they dispose of the bags separately or else recycle them.
Yeah.
But I don't think they put them in the landfill. I don't believe. I'll have to ask Mike. But they just empty them right into the truck
Right.
and hang them on the truck.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
we'd like to begin with any committee reports then.
Save the reading.
Beginning with governance strategy and city operations. Councilor Armstrong? Governance strategy
Oh,
and city
yeah.
operations.
Okay, well, I sent out a proposal for agendas, and, if anybody else has something that they feel they would like to include in the discussion, I'm one of the proponents of really only dealing with whatever resolutions wind up on the agenda, just the exceptional question. I want to reserve more time for discussion about topics pertinent to the committee and interaction with the department heads. I'll probably ask Matt, I don't think I got around to it in my email, for updates on the status of the various things related to the DRI. And the CFA, it's called CFA, right?
Yeah.
Grants. And I think I might have included in my list a couple of ideas that I hoped might be considered as we review possible grant application.
Is this an email that you had previously sent to me?
I don't know if it went to you or the council. I don't think it went to you.
Oh,
So I'll forward it to you.
Okay.
All right. I think we're also going to discuss some way of forming policies and a structure for including council in any negotiation that has to do with financial consequences for the city. And I'm not exactly sure what kind of format that committee would take, but I think it would help with communication about, ongoing negotiations, which are really important to our decision-making process. We're finding that sometimes when we get information at the end of the process, it's not as helpful. We feel as though it's important for the mayor to have our feedback and our viewpoints early on. So that's something I'm hoping we can put into place as a council.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
City infrastructure, Councilor Moore?
Oh, I see you had some purchase orders for asphalt, so I'm guessing we're getting into the paving season, and I think that'll please everyone. That's good. I just wanted to comment too that Councilor Ensel and myself and Mayor Reed attended the first Liberal Community meeting yesterday, actually, and we're off to a good start, and hopefully we'll come up with some good ideas to make the city a little more livable.
With regard to paving, it's fortuitous that we did hire that craftsperson surveyor that's helping with the lining and the surveying work for all the various paving. It's fortuitous because we then put out a commission. One of the people who's working with him, there's a mishap with a car. He, of course, wears brightly colored vest, but he tries to do his work at night to be as disruptive as possible. It's like kind of car one, Mr. Duran Zero in that little confrontation, but he's healing and he's anxious to get back to work. But in the meantime, the new surveyor they hired is filling that gap. We all wish him well.
And I forgot to include, in trying to touch base with Matt a little bit, I really appreciate the fact that the parking committee has continued to meet and is entertaining all kinds of options for parking. But along the way, I know we discussed the need for an engineer to actually kind of certify the workability of some of those plans, and I just wondered what the status of that was.
We met with a representative of AEDA earlier this week to have them put together a quote for engineering services related to the Glens Falls project. We had a phone call with officials at the county this afternoon about coordination between the city and the county for our plans for a Court Street reconfiguration and for the county's intention to reconfigure their own lot.
Excellent. And how much will the consideration of the effect of any one of these plans on traffic flow be handled in a kind of professional, with a professional consultant? Because I know Elizabeth, and I can't remember who met with us at the time, and I were really concerned about, creating log jams. And I know the public, we hear from the public about their concerns, really doesn't want travel through the city to be dramatically impaired by any adjustments we make to parking.
Traffic study, we don't have anything budgeted currently for that, but if it's something that the council would like to see, that would be a budget consideration you would have to take under advisement.
Right, there's no way to have that money reimbursed by whatever, I guess it was the Financial Restructuring Board, because that's part of what they were offering to assist us with in creating alternate parking and a paid parking system.
I think that once we decide how to proceed, and if there's a revenue component that we generate from it, they'd be willing to jump in. I don't think they'd be willing to jump in on speculation about whether we want to proceed on something, because they need either a demonstrated cost savings or revenue enhancement.
Gotcha.
But we did propose to them a budget for some of the plans that this parking group is working with, and we haven't heard back from them, but they'd asked for that budget. The Chamberlain helped us produce that budget as well. That was probably about 2 weeks ago, so we could ask them.
Yeah.
Now we got their request.
Still waiting for them to pay us for the shared services for the assessor.
Oh my goodness.
They take an act of Congress to get
Maybe
the
we
state.
need to have a protest in front of their office.
I don't know how fast they are willing to pay for these things.
Yeah,
They say they are up front, it's like, come on, come on.
right.
And then you send them stuff and it's like, give me this, give me this, give me this, and it's like, they just drag it out.
It's
forever.
bureaucracy. Gotcha.
Anything other, Councillor Moore?
No, that's it.
Finance and Budget, Councillor Kelly?
Well, we are entering the month of May, as you know, and that is a very exciting time for the Finance and Budget Committee, because this is the time that we develop our 5-year plan, or perhaps I should say update our 5-year plan, since it's been in place for a couple of years now. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'd like to try to make it more inclusive this year so that all of our counselors can weigh in and participate in that process, and make sure that our 5 to 10 year plan actually is reflective of the council's desires. So let's work together on that. When I return from my vacation, I will certainly have a schedule in place to let us work on the 5-year to 10-year plan every meeting, if it takes that. And remember that our goal is to have that in place by June 1st. So let's work together to make that happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it's worth mentioning, just because maybe the public hasn't absorbed this, but Mike and I both served on a council where, although the charter mandated a 5-year plan, there were projections, and we always got information from the Chamberlain regarding how things looked for the 5 years ahead. But there wasn't a real degree of council participation in making decisions regarding the nature of that plan. There wasn't, on the part of the council, in-depth analysis of what factors we needed to consider in order to get ourselves out of the hole. And I think that's part of the reason why we got ourselves in the hole during the time we were in office for the first term. So I really have to appreciate and acknowledge Mayor's efforts and Mike's efforts to make sure that we get the kind of analysis we need and do the kind of planning and scrutiny we need to look at our financial outlook and make sure that we continue to try to be more and more sustainable.
Yeah, yes, Councilor Armstrong, I do have to hand it to Mayor Reed for recognizing that this provision existed in the charter all along to do this kind of work every year, and he revised that and revitalized that so that we can now make that happen. And it's such an exciting thing to think that we control the long-term projection into the future of the city's finances. And I think, gosh, that's a power that we didn't even know we had until Mayor Reed came along. And I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. So it's a pretty exciting time. I will send out the 5-year plan as it exists today to all of you, and then we can start to carve the next year's 5-year plan together. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to your input.
So let's use the numbers that we closed out 2018 with to revise and update the 5-year plan so you can start projecting forward. And of course, it is really helpful for me because, as you know, I want to try to produce my preliminary mayor's budget in July, so we have a lot of time to work for it, and it needs to be informed by your priorities, your 5-year priorities as well. So
yeah,
these things really work very closely together.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Public safety, Councilor Gibbs.
Well, we had our public safety meeting tonight. All items from our agenda have been moved forward. So they'll be open for discussion with the public if anybody has any questions on. One additional item is the outstanding animal control contract that we decided tonight that we're going to meet Thursday before the regular council meeting to iron out possible language changes. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Public Library, Councilor Ansel.
There was a meeting scheduled for Tuesday and told by Councilor Armstrong that it was canceled. I have difficulty making the meetings on when they're scheduled because of ongoing conflict, but I do get the minutes and the notes.
Right. We can always read the reports and just report out from there, but I'll make every attempt to sub for you when I can.
Thank you.
MLD Board President, Councilor McFarland.
Yes, I will note that the mayor and I have been collaborating on an energy plan, which I think he unveiled today.
He did.
Yeah. So I was not there. I was in court, but I hope that went well.
We hope court went well too.
We went all right from there.
You were representing though, right?
Yeah, I was not in trouble this time. So that's exciting. I hope to have updates soon. Because of my schedule, I have been unable to meet with the mayor and Mr. Tracy, but I will meet with them hopefully next week and have some more updates then on updates to Rider A and how everything has gone with data coming in from over the winter.
If you're free tomorrow, we'll be meeting with Mr. Tracy and legal counsel at 9 a.m. If you're free, please feel free to attend if you can.
I'll be in Albany, but thanks. Yeah.
Okay. And we do have some copies of that 58-point plan, which is in conjunction with the smart community activities, which we'll be honoring as well tonight. So they're all fitting together incredibly well. Any other councilor reports or at this time? Any other discussion on the agenda at this time? Seeing none, would you like to take a 5-minute recess before the beginning of our meeting then?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Armstrong, can I ask you a question? Councilor Armstrong?
Oh, Seth, sure.
When do you want me to read this?
Just
During this time? Okay.
I'll see her Tuesday.
Comes in handy.
So if we go to this,
I was there actually early.
hi,
And then
looks like you have a fan.
Might be my soul.
When you mentioned that people that things kind of fly back to this and that, such a they've been doing all these and one of the people I talked to was talking about paper ads and how they were mentioning this. One of the people said, I don't know if this is what the guy you were talking about was part of the problem with paper ads is they're much heavier. So it takes 7 times transportation to get them to them, and then the storage capacity, they take up a lot more storage.
I don't remember exactly what the issue is, but I remember saying that it's more of a
Yeah, because they were really emphasizing the transportation cost is higher because they take up more space in the tractor trailer.
I remember I had a second for something I stopped using them and they told me that. Now I can't remember the reason. It's 2 years ago.
I thought the idea behind the paper bags is that you would reuse them.
Recycle, or they be recycled.
Oh, they're taken. Oh, I thought they were reused.
Not taken, picked up for lawn leaves and grass clippings.
Yeah, I thought people would.
And they're biodegradable.
Right, I thought they would be picked up, emptied, and then replaced at your curb. That's what I thought they were.
Well, I thought they would be more biodegradable. Those guys that I talked to was arguing, there is that, but then you've got to
Now I think my
transportation.
memory is coming back to me is that they take a long time to decompose.
Well, that's the other thing. If this is a big issue, wouldn't you think that the paper bag manufacturers would be making them so that they would decompose faster?
You would think.
Well, I guess the question is probably just better to recycle plastic bags. I mean, I know DPW, when they pick up my clippings from my yard, they, it's exactly as
Do you have a
Mark
copy
said,
of
they
your
put them all in one
plan?
bag.
That's me.
Just need to know we're hoping to recycle them. Recycle those plastic bags and.
But where's the market? I mean, China closed off all of the recycling, that it used to take. So everybody's been scrambling for all recycling.
For plastic bags, you mean?
Everything. As far as I know, they cut off all of their market, and that's where a lot of recyclers sent their stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We can find out. Councilman Moore and I are on infrastructure, so we can put that on our questions. Thank you. Just gave me all kinds of information.
Hopefully it's accurate.
Thank you. So I just did some quick math over it. It is 9. We can talk about it this week. We don't have a conversation. Yep, I do, but here's the problem. The contract says this. Anyway, well, we'll sort it out next week.
And so I tweeted that you handed out cookies.
The cookies look good.
My staff editor for the New York Times said what kind of cookies. So now I need to answer that.
Sheldon Napoli from,
So,
they're from the Albany, and this is like a very famous bakery apparently. I don't know, actually Peter knows.
Oh,
This company.
We're taking a picture.
You spread the word.
There you go.
Inquiring minds need to know it.
Protesting out loud. And what does the New York Times want to know? What kind of cookie?
Told I drove 150 miles to Albany to pick them up just for that reason.
He's in this
Actually, Peter knows the whole history of that bakery. Apparently, it's quite famous.
You know, it's interesting. Like, have you ever seen the show Rome?
Where is it in Albany?
There's like a.
Well, Peter would know that too. I didn't really drive that many miles to get it. Maybe it's from Colony. Hey, Peter.
It's like really cool.
Where's this bakery from?
They're based in Troy, but they're in Latham, right on the corner of Route 9 and 155, right off of exit 6.
Apparently, if you live down there, they're very well known.
They're incredible. I actually went to college with the owner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, there's another little tidbit for your.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Well, if you're ready, let's begin tonight's meeting. We'll begin tonight's council meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Councilor Armstrong,
Here.
Councilor Kelly,
Here?
Councilor Gibbs,
Here.
Councilor Renzel.
Here.
Councilor McFarland.
Here.
Councilor Moore.
Here.
I'd like to begin my mayor's comments, first of all, with a note of appreciation for everybody who attended the Earth Day meeting on Monday that Councilor Armstrong had spearheaded. Very good turnout, a very positive group of people. And we felt so strongly about Earth Day that we made this into Earth Week and actually have a whole series of events throughout the week, including a rollout of a 58-point plan for energy and economic resiliency for the city of Plattsburgh earlier today. And I'd like to then use this opportunity to say, in a proclamation, if the students and representatives of the Plattsburgh High School Green Team could please come forward.
Here, why don't you stand here and then face the public and the camera.
So this is a proclamation resolved that I, Colin L. Reed, Mayor of the City of Plattsburgh, proclaim this week to be dedicated to Climate Smart Communities Committee Week in honor of the Plattsburgh High School Green Team and Amy Schultz for their efforts in the New York State Climate Smart Pledge for helping the city of Plattsburgh become a climate smart community. The city thanks and honors the PHS Green Team and Amy Schultz. So congratulations.
That is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure. Do something like that? Yeah, absolutely. Ready?
Thank you for coming tonight. And I know we're going to be very busy working together on these initiatives for next year. So.
We're ready to go.
Thank
We're ready
you.
to go. Thank you.
If I might just follow up, for those of you who didn't see the coverage or didn't attend, it's kicked off with this group's very compelling, very factual slide presentation about global climate change and its local effects. And I appreciate the level of information that they brought to the group. It helped us frame the urgency of acting to pass this Climate Smart Communities Pledge. And I look forward to the involvement of the Green Team in the future efforts of the Climate Smart Communities Task Force.
I'd just like to say it was very impressive and reassuring to see that our youth becoming so involved and engaged in this. Thank you.
Resolved that the the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on April 17th, 2019 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Ansel, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending April 24th, 2019 in the amount of $443,703.51 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Moore. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You all have in your packet the reports, and during our working session, you delivered a number of individual committee reports. Are there anything to add to the individual committee reports or the packet reports? Seeing none, resolved that the reports as listed are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. There's no correspondences or recommendations from boards at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending April 26, 2019 in the amount of $3,197,801.14 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Ansel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. This is an opportunity now for the public to please come and address the council on the items on the agenda tonight. There isn't a set of agenda just right outside the door, and there will be another public comment period at the end of the meeting as well for any issues of mutual concern. But this is agenda items only this time. Seeing none, please continue.
Motion to remove item 7A from the table.
Seeing none, please continue.
Whereas the city of Plattsburgh Common Council, hereinafter Common Council, understands that climate change poses real and increasing threats to our local and global environments, and it's primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels. And whereas the effects of climate change will endanger our infrastructure, economy, and livelihoods, harm our fellow.
Motion to waive the reading and move the resolution forward.
May I suggest that it hasn't been read before, and especially in honor of our
That's fine.
students here? Thank you.
Harm our farms, orchards, and ecological communities, including native fish and wildlife populations, spread invasive species and exotic diseases, reduce drinking water supplies and recreational opportunities, and pose health risks to our citizens. And whereas we believe that our response to climate change provides us with an unprecedented opportunity to save money and to build livable, energy-independent, and secure communities, vibrant innovation economies, healthy and safe schools, and resilient infrastructures. And whereas we believe the scale of greenhouse gas emissions reductions required for climate stabilization will require sustained and substantial efforts. And whereas we believe that even if emissions were dramatically reduced today, communities would still be required to adapt to the effects of climate change for decades to come, it is hereby resolved that the Common Council, in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to a changing climate, adopts the New York State Climate Smart Communities Pledge, which comprises the following 10 elements. Build a climate smart community, inventory emissions, set goals, and plan for climate action, decrease energy use, shift to clean, renewable energy, use climate smart materials management, implement climate smart land use, enhance community resilience to climate change, support a green innovation economy, inform and inspire the public, engage in an evolving process of climate action.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, didn't you have to look up that one? Second by, let's say second by all the council.
Good.
Any further discussion?
It was a wonderful process to work with the Plattsburgh Sustainability Committee to discover this project and to actually learn about how it's being implemented statewide. We will have an opportunity to work with the local communities who include the village of Lewis, the village of Shroon Lake, the village of Saranac Lake, the village of Lake Placid, to network and learn from them about how to best implement this program. I'm really looking forward to collaboration from, as I said, the Plattsburgh Green Team, all of the counselors. We have to put in place a task force. We have to appoint a coordinator. I volunteer to do that.
Be the coordinator?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect.
And I really think this is groundbreaking. This sends a message to our community that we are committed to take very dramatic steps to reducing greenhouse gases and mitigate climate change in the very short period of time we have to act.
And I might add, and those of you who were at the press conference earlier, we made the point that we can do well at the same time as doing good. This can also lead to savings for the members of our community, and we're going to provide the incentives for those that can ill afford some of these innovations just because they don't have access to credit, et cetera. We do have rebate programs available and other state aid that we can use to assist in these transitions. So we think that this will not only save our residents and taxpayers money, but it will also be an opportunity for us to use less energy. And by using less energy, we can use the remaining energy in our quota to generate more jobs and attract more activity to our communities as well. So we see this as everybody wins and nobody loses, and to enhance our environmental and economic resiliency in Plattsburgh. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves an agreement with Ron Santor for the 2019 Police Academy Director Training Director Services. The total cost is $20,000, no increase in cost from 2018.
Moved by Councilor Ansel, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion?
Actually, since we discussed this already in our committee meeting, but as I expressed to you, Chief Ritter, a constituent reached out to me with some questions about this. Would you be willing to come to the podium and explain this thoroughly? Because that person is in the audience tonight.
Sure.
And that we can come straight from you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'll just give a brief, and if you have questions, just feel free.
Great.
So Ron Santor is a contractor who has worked for our police department going back at least over a decade, more than a decade, because he was the academy director when I went through the police academy in 2004. So he's been doing this for a very, very long time. He assists with the training requirements for our department, which are extensive. So having a person that can coordinate that for a contract fee instead of having an employee with benefits also is financially smart. So when we talked about in the meeting, part of the cost is offset by academy tuition. So really, it is almost a net cost.
One thing you also mentioned earlier is that we're the only city in 100 miles in New York, and your group provides leadership and training to a lot of other communities that probably have a hard time finding an opportunity to train their academy, their new recruitees as well. So you do a tremendous service. I think you usually take in about 8 or 10 other recruitees for the 3 or 4 recruitees in Plattsburgh that you train yourself.
Certainly, it's not just a service for our department, but for what is comprised of Zone 9 in New York State. So it's several counties.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And we see the cost here. We don't see the revenue here, but the revenue actually, I believe, from the various tuitions we do by belonging to this outreach more than covers the cost of this program.
Not to mention the savings that we incur with our own recruits that go through the academy.
I wouldn't be surprised if we would have paid this similar amount just in sending our 3 or 4 recruitees each year out somewhere else. It's a very good program. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Whereas Plattsburgh Plaza LLC and HMC Nominee LLC filed Article 7 real property assessment review cases against the city challenging the 2017 and 2018 assessments on real property located at 316 Cornelius Street.
Beth, I'll ask to waive the reading and move to resolution.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Renzel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion on the item itself. Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Insel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves one police department employee to attend trauma management training from May 7th through 9th, 2019 in Watervliet, New York. The total cost will not exceed $433.75 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund.
Moved by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Insel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves 2 police department employees to attend Glock Armorer's course training on June 25th through 26th, 2019 in Herkimer, New York. The total cost will not exceed $846 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund.
Moved by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Renzel. Discussion? And this and obviously the last couple of items you discussed extensively in your public safety committee.
Yes, we did.
Prior to this meeting.
Mhm.
Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Insel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Are there any resolutions for initial consideration today? New business and additional council reports.
Yes, I've a prepared statement that I'm going to read that was drawn up by several of the council members and collaborated with our corporate counsel, so I'm going to read that now. There is a strong support for the thoughtful redevelopment of the Durkee lot, which represents an approximately $25 million investment in our downtown. In addition to improving the tax base, it will bring in dozens of young professionals, retirees, and families to live, work, eat, and shop in our downtown. But for some, change isn't easy. We hope those that oppose this project recognize that council makes decisions within the context of our responsibility to make Plattsburgh economically viable, sustainable, and affordable. As all prior and current city councils know, the city is constrained by a tax base made up of 35% tax-exempt properties. Relying on 15 years of research and producing 18 studies, all listed on the city website, in 2016, the city applied for the New York State Downtown Revitalization Grant. In July of 2016, we were awarded $10 million by the state with the goal of leveraging public monies to obtain private investment. Next, a local planning committee, or the LPC, composed of local leaders was appointed. The multifaceted process to select DRI projects included public engagement events, and the state's award was anchored, in large part, on the redevelopment of the Durkee lot. Simply stated, the best use of this prime location is not a parking lot. We disagree with the unfounded claim that this project has no public support. This assertion is apparently based upon one public meeting held at SUNY, in which participants were asked to discuss the priority project list and then vote for their preferences with stickers. During this session, the opposition states that only 1% to 2% of the participants ranked the development of the Durkee Street lot, or the DSL, their top preference. The group also claims that results were never reported to the state, and that the LPC's report, quote, falsely claimed public support for developing it. These assertions reduce the notion of public support to a limited quantity entirely measured on the basis of feedback from about 40 out of 180 people who attended 4 community workshops in a city with a population of nearly 20,000 people. Further, this feedback was not the product of formal research methods. These session results were combined with the results of the many other means of collecting public input, such as surveys and focus groups, as well as the 18 studies described above. Further, there is no evidence that New York State intended this public meeting sticker survey to be the sole criteria by which the LPC would make recommendations to the state. The LPC considered their experience as community leaders and their knowledge of research and planning documents. The LPC's job was not to count votes, but to consider them and then act as leaders who were designated representatives. Opponents prefer that DRI grants be invested in existing downtown buildings. However, the LPC knew, as did the council, that the Durkee Street Real Estate Market Analysis and Financial Feasibility Study, done in April 2016, state that the Durkee lot is, quote, one of few remaining developable properties in the city's urban core, which gives this site a unique opportunity for new construction, as most others in the downtown area would entail rehabilitation of existing buildings, end quote. However, because the LPC and the New York Department of DOS, also recognized that this kind of investment was necessary, it also awarded the city $1 million in renovation loans to downtown property owners. Further, the state awarded additional money in an attempt to study and redevelop the land surrounding the city marina. In a recent Facebook post, the Save the Durkee parking lot group asserts that building on the lot is, quote, a senseless development and it is environmentally irresponsible to build there, and that they are, quote, getting neither green spaces nor amenities for local citizens, but a bunch of high-end apartments we just don't need. They overlook studies that suggest the need for new housing serving diverse residents, and that existing housing is below par, serving students primarily. Among the many benefits of having diverse residents who live downtown, these new residents will enjoy a walkable community. Bringing new residents to the area will mean new patrons who won't need parking spaces when they patronize downtown businesses. Park space and a pedestrian/bicycle path along the river will afford views that have never been available to the public at that location. The city is planning alternate parking, and plans will be in place before the developers break ground. Why insist on preserving a lot situated on prime real estate, not the highest and best purpose for 3.5 acres of prime, undeveloped potential? Paid parking will generate revenue for the fixing sidewalks and maintaining parking lots, revenue that we've not had before. More importantly, the primary goal of paid parking is to promote an efficient and high-functioning parking system that will ensure that parking is convenient for those who need it, but is not burdensome on development of our downtown core. All of this helps our businesses to thrive. Producing revenue to fix sidewalks and improve our neighborhoods is a happy side effect. Finally, we offer this article titled, "We Don't Really Need This Parking Lot," which was published on the Strong Towns site in 2017. Charles Marone states, "We don't need a parking lot as badly as we need our city to become financially strong and healthy. If we shift our obsession from having adequate space to store cars to having a tax base to cover our expenses, all kinds of new ideas become possible. And that's what building strong towns is all about." Thank you.
Any additional new business or council reports?
I will say this, I did have a constituent make a suggestion and ask if it were possible to potentially change the times for council meetings from 5:30 to 6:30. Stating that it was hard for some people to get out of work in time to attend council meetings at 5:30. So she was asking that that be brought up to the council as a possible suggestion. So I'm suggesting it to the council.
Maybe we should take that discussion up at our governance, operation, and strategy meeting next week.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Any further new business and council reports? Seeing none, this is now an opportunity for the public to please come and address the council on any issue of mutual concern.
But it's not on the agenda?
That's
Yes.
not on the agenda, that's right. Yep. And if it's groups that are all speaking on one side of one issue, we ask you to appoint a representative to make.
I'm not a representative of any group. My name is Sylvie Baudreau. I teach at the college. I'm a historian. And one of the things I study is what makes urban communities vibrant and what doesn't. And most of my research has to do with 1909 and the creation of a historical monument for Champlain down on the Saranac River. So I've been following this debate personally and have been kind of concerned about a number of issues. And you all saw the protests outside today, and there's a Facebook page now that has 1,200 people or more and growing who want to save the Durkee Street parking lot. Most of these people are not opposed to developing the Durkee Street parking lot, but they are having serious concerns about the manner in which this process has occurred and also the configuration of the project as outlined by prime companies. So there's too many questions to ask. I don't have much time, but I wanted to ask you all a question that has to do with the history of this community. And I'm not old enough to know what happened here in the 80s. I am a resident of Plattsburgh. I'm a taxpayer of Plattsburgh. I live around, near to the college. And I just wanted to ask you, is it not the case that Plattsburgh experimented with a paid parking system in the 80s and set up meters? Is that not the case?
It's true.
Is it not the case that that project was abandoned?
Different kind of system, different times.
Why did the system not work in the 80s? Can someone please answer that question?
This is a public comment period. It's not really
Oh.
a back and forth.
We can get back to you.
We would like to know, because we feel as if essentially paid parking, what happened in the 80s is that the malls were booming, and when we had a paid parking system, what it did was it just encouraged people to shop at the mall and made downtown expensive to park in, and I think local merchants called for it to be abolished. And I fear that that will happen again if we do the same thing again. I'm worried that we're reinventing the wheel yet again, only to have worse things, because now we're not just competing with the malls, we're competing with online shopping. And so we need to make the downtown as attractive as possible and not penalize people for shopping in the downtown area. And then the second point I want to bring up is that local residents have told me, especially young people, students, people who live in the downtown core, they tell me that in the wintertime we have these flashing lights that tell them that when it's snowing they need to move their cars. And right now the city is envisaging shifting the 289 spaces and putting them somewhere in the downtown core, mainly on streets. I watched the entire video of the parking committee meeting diligently and watched what they were doing, and there's all kinds of schemes to kind of push the parking into surrounding areas. So the question that the young people have is, when the snow falls and they have to move their cars, they use the Durkee Street parking lot. It's one place they can go to put their cars. And one person who posted said quite eloquently, what does the city expect us to do? Do they want us to levitate? Pardon? Sorry. So my question is, how do you respond to that? What are people going to do when it snows? And I think I'll leave it at that because I've extended my 5-minute period. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals like to please come address the council?
I guess I could say I'm part of Change Through Action. I'm part of the group Change Through Action. Yeah, I just feel like there's so many of us, and I live here, and I'm a taxpayer, and I'm someone who I work 40 hours a week, but I can still barely afford my bills, and I can't go 2 weeks without a paycheck. So I'm lucky I get a weekly paycheck. But yeah, great point. We use that parking lot when we have a snowstorm. Hopefully we don't have any snow for a while, but most of us can't afford parking, and it's hard enough to live as it is. The cost of living just keeps rising, and then our taxes just keep rising. So it's like, what do we do? You know, there's not a lot of space, and then for people that live downtown, you know, where do you go? You can hope that you park here, and then you're not gonna get a ticket. It's just, we gotta think about the people, the majority of us that can't afford to have paid parking, and then it doesn't really make sense to keep building new downtown apartments that most of us can't afford. You're just wasting more space, and then you're expecting that most of us have a whole bunch of money when we really don't, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals like to please come address the council?
Hi, I'm Maria Lyons from Reality Check. I would just like to let you all know what we did last weekend. We did a butt pickup actually across the street. Every butt of a cigarette that we found, we placed down an orange flag.
Thank you so much.
There were a lot of flags. There was like 400 and something flags out. There was a lot. And
you put one there and we'll put it in his mailbox. Here we go.
And we also did behind here, across the street a little bit, around there. And we almost had, all of our bags were almost fully full of cigarette butts.
Yeah, I saw you had bags and bags and bags this high of butts. Thank you for all your great work.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Any other individuals like to please come address the council?
Hi. Hello. I'm Caitlin Marachka. I'm a resident of Plattsburgh. I actually used to go to school here, but I left and came back because it's such a nice area. And I love Plattsburgh. It's beautiful. It's got the cutest downtown. But I was concerned when I heard that they were thinking of building on the Durkee parking lot, because I think it's an important public space that actually allows for more businesses to, like, there's more people to park and be able to go to businesses, excuse me. And if we get rid of that, they're not going to be going downtown as much. There'll be people living downtown, but there won't be people visiting. And I think the tourism is very strong here as well. It's a beautiful place, and we should encourage that. There's other cities such as like Ithaca or Burlington that have really nice parking garages, and I think something like that could really benefit Plattsburgh as well. I guess that's the rundown of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And perhaps to clear up some of the misunderstandings, I know that Mr. Vinson had prepared a question and answer and documented a number of 15 or 20 public forums of one sort or another on this issue, and has a fair amount of the work product all in one concise place. Maybe we can try to figure out a way. I know it's on different places on our website already, but if we can just assemble it all in one place and easily direct people to all the research, documentation, and public forums, the various YouTubes and everything, so everybody can spend some time taking a look at that, that might be helpful. And thank you for that effort. I know you've done it on behalf of a couple of students and a couple of student organizations that asked you for that information. Any other individuals like to please come address the council? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Moore. Roll call.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Renzel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yeah.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming. Go and enjoy this beautiful day.
Well read. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Those are good, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna look at 2, or maybe 3. So water pollution, MOD, what is record? We got one for water pollution, MOD, and one for practice. Councilor Gibbs, you have a really wonderful reading voice.
That's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
One of my AP